We've got a very special guest on the podcast today. This is Ethan Williams. Guys, I want to give you a quick comp. Ethan is a young entrepreneur, and the business that he has created, think of it like this. He has created the Amazon for sneaker resale. He's the Jeff Bezos for sneaker resale. That is the type of comp that you should be thinking about before we get into this podcast. And a little bit of introduction. Since starting his business at age 14, he has done over $8 million in revenue. He has over 10,000 business owners using his software, and he has created the most used inventory and shipping software designed for the sneaker resale industry in the entire country. Absolute stud. Fired up about this podcast. Ethan, thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you, Anthony, for having me. I'm excited.
Okay, awesome. So for the first question I have, would you mind just explaining in a little more depth the type of business that you have and who exactly you serve, your target customer?
So I have a software, people call it SaaS, mobile app and a desktop app. And basically what we do is it's inventory management for sneaker resellers as well as shipments. And I'm basically trying to build an ecosystem around all of the different things that a reseller needs. So supply chain, inventory, logistics with the shipments, even the packaging supplies, warehousing, pretty much like you said, like Amazon of sneakers. Like that's what I'm trying to create. And also just building that community to eventually connect everyone together in a form of a marketplace. That is kind of the end goal with what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the person that would use my app would be a small scale reseller up to the largest wholesalers in the world use our platform. I set everything up so it's very like dynamic as you keep growing your business, and we work with you. We're actually with our new update. It's even more like we're adding this super cool Sire Gold program. You get like a YouTube plaque. It looks like that. You get a metal card. You drop it on the table, and it like makes a crazy sound.
Yeah.
You get like one-on-one support directly with the sales rep. So we're adding a bunch of those cooler things into the app. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for as far as like who uses it and kind of how it works. Or I guess I could explain a little bit more how it works. It's like,
Well, I got one question before you do that. You said it, I mean, it's for both ends of the spectrum. So you can
yes.
be the smallest person. This is your day one starting, boom, your app for them. But you said the largest wholesalers in the entire country. Who's the biggest wholesaler that uses your software?
Ooh, I can't say specific names, but I mean, we have people pushing probably like 500, 600,000 a month in revenue. Like a lot of and that's not just like one customer. Like we have like at least 50 people that do those type of numbers. But it's important to note that in the sneaker space, it's very like every item is very expensive. So like the shoes that are being sold are usually around $150 to $200 per item. Usually, same with clothing, it's usually around that. So, but a lot of the bigger people that use our software are wholesalers. Like we pretty much operate just in the wholesale space for now. So people are usually sending out shipments that are worth. I mean, honestly, like Jack. What was the one? Jack right here. He's like our CEO in training right here. He just came out for the week, but we had one customer. What was Carol's that one package like 30,000?
Oh yeah, well he lost two, and combined it was worth about 30,000.
Yeah, so like just two packages alone were $30,000 in value. So I mean, yeah, people are spending a lot of money in this industry. It's wild.
Okay, so you started this business at the age of 14. That's pretty impressive. I'm trying to understand how at 14 years old, how do you have enough credibility to start selling shoes? Like who's going to take a 14-year-old seriously?
Well, it wasn't always software at 14. I originally started actually technically 13 with cleaning shoes, but I don't even consider that. But it pretty much started cleaning shoes, just like Air Forces. Like I would just clean them for kids in my school, and their mom would give me $10 to clean them until I stacked enough money. I bought my first pair of Yeezys that I really wanted just to wear for myself. When I was 14, I wore them for a year, completely destroyed them. And like I paid like $200 used. And then in a year I sold them for like $350. So I made money off of wearing my favorite shoes. And that was what like kind of hit for me, because I was like, you can make money off like wearing your shoes. It makes no sense as long as you clean them and provide that value. And so I pretty much just kept recycling like that 350. I then went and bought another pair of shoes. Instead of wearing them this time, I then cleaned them and then sold them again for like 400. And then I just kept doing that process until I stacked up enough money to get into like the more of like the software and the wholesale side of things that I started.
Okay.
At like 50.
So like from my understanding, it sounds like you stumbled across this by accident. Like you're like, oh shit, I can actually start making some money. And because
Yeah.
the question is, when I think of young entrepreneurs, kids at a very young age that start a business and do something very impressive, a lot of the times they're forced to do so. Let's say they need to go out and they need to get more money because of something in their family life, or some situation happens that just goes boom, total shift in mindset. I'm done screwing around. I need to do this. Did you have any experience like that at any part of your entrepreneurial journey? Or was it just, I enjoy what I'm doing, I like this, I'm gonna keep doing it?
Well, when I first started, it was definitely like I never went in with the mentality of wanting to make money off sneakers. I just wanted to build my own collection. And like I'll show you later, like I have probably 50 pairs of shoes that I personally wear. I probably only wear like 2 now, but back then I was super into it. But yeah, I mean, it kind of started as literally I didn't care about the money. It was for fun.
Yeah.
But I would say like the point where I really was like, it was like life or death was the going up to the college decision, because that was like, I had a lot to prove to all of my like family, friends, that everyone that was like, because like in the Midwest, it's like, especially from like the town I was in, it was very weird to not go to college. Like you're just like a loser if you don't go to college, you know? So, and no one really understood. Like, so I guess that I had a lot more to prove, like going into junior year of high school. And that was when I kind of really like turned it up and started really taking it more serious with the side of like financials and everything. But it was never, I never really needed money. It wasn't like that. Like, it was just more of like, I wanted to build something bigger. So it was something credible that people are like, okay, this is legit. Like you don't need to go to college. Like you got something going here. That was
So
kind of.
explain to me right now, what did a day in the life look like that junior year in high school when you said, I'm done screwing around, this is serious, I need to make money to prove that I'm not a loser, and that's why I'm not going to college? What did a day in the life look like?
Well, I'd wake up, go to school all day till like 2 p.m. And then I would have football practice during the football season. That was brutal. That I stopped playing junior year because it was really, really hard to manage it. But when I was playing football, like the problem was it wasn't right after school. So it was at 3. So I'd get off the bus or like back home at 2:30, have to leave instantly. So then it was like 3 to like 6 p.m. practice. I would come home and I would instantly go to UPS. I would pack up all my boxes and go straight to UPS because it closed at like 6:30. Yeah. So I had to like pack everything up. Sometimes in the morning before, I would actually pack before I went to school, because some days like I would sell like 50 to 100 shoes and I have to pack them up individually. That takes like an hour and a half by yourself. And at this time, I started hiring employees later into that year, but at the beginning, it was all myself. Yeah. So then I would take everything to UPS. And from there, it'd probably be like 7. And then from 7 to probably 8, probably doing homework and studying. And then 8 to like 1 a.m., I'd be working on my business, messaging suppliers, reaching out to customers, and literally just making deals happen. I literally had no time for anything else. It was just that. And yeah, it was definitely very overwhelming. Like I'd be at football practice tweaking because I'd be like, there's customers waiting for me. Like I remember specifically one time when I got in like 50 to 60 pairs of Yeezys. They're actually on my Instagram. There's a post, so there's proof of this. The Zion Yeezy, and I paid like $220 each. But the thing is with shoes, it's like the market will be super hot right when it comes out, but if you wait like a week to sell, it'll tank. So like I just got all these pairs in, and I was using credit cards, so I barely had enough money to like front it. Right. So I was like dealing with trying to sell them and move them as quick as possible, but I would be at practice the whole time like stressed out, like just thinking about these shoes the whole time. That was like when I really decided to stop playing, because I was like, I can't deal with all of it, you know. But
okay, very, very interesting. So I mean, based on that, you're working like it's a full day of school. You come home, you go straight to UPS, then you have football practice. You're tweaking at football practice, you get home 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. every single night. You are on your computer working on the business. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like you get much sleep. How sustainable was that? And like,
It
was there a
was
breaking point during that process?
honestly there. Okay, well, honestly, I was very strong through it. Now looking back, I don't know how I did that. It was just like I didn't even think about like it being hard. It was just like it was like a life or death thing because I was literally like, and there was a point where it was even harder. Like it would be summer. I would have been going into my freshman year of college, so like a year and a half ago, that was even harder. But we'll get into that later because that was like the Sire grind when I was building the software.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely not sustainable, and I don't recommend it. But actually, no. If you're first starting, I highly recommend it because those moments made me like such a better leader, and I learned so much about the business. Like I learned so much even about myself and like what my limits were. But the biggest thing that kind of helped me through it was I did have a lot of friends like that I made online during COVID that, you know, like we're also kind of in the same struggle. So we'd be on calls the whole time, like talking about the new sneaker drops coming out, and everyone else is young. So like that was very important for me because it helped me a lot with like making sure I didn't go crazy. Like there was a point where I actually thought I was going crazy because every kid in my school just didn't understand what I was doing. And they would just be like, what are you talking about? Like no one got it. Like no one. And my parents have no idea. Like, so it was definitely very like overwhelming, like I would say.
Interesting.
But
Okay, so I mean, you're at a young age, you're doing this, you're working your ass off. It sounds like it got a little bit lonely for you.
yeah, definitely.
It did get lonely. So do you like how'd you manage that loneliness? I understand some of it is connecting with people online. How'd you manage that loneliness? And when you look back on it, do you regret that at all? Like not being able to fully live out the high school experience?
No, because honestly, none of those kids like now looking like I would never be friends with those kids today, anyways, because they're just like a completely. I'm sure you know, like at least for me, like the second I talk to somebody for like 5 seconds, I know if they have it or not. Because like you can just tell, like there's a difference in people of like people that are like trying to do things with their life and the people that are just kind of going through the motions. So like honestly, like a lot of the people that went to my school, like I just didn't get along with just because like I knew they weren't like me with the same mentality. And that was why I actually moved to New Jersey because
Yeah.
all my friends that I made online were from here. And everyone here is more like go, go, go. Like they got it. They're walking with a purpose. I felt like in Michigan, a lot of people were just kind of like just trying to get by and like do their thing, which nothing wrong with that, but it just wasn't me. But I definitely noticed after high school ended and I moved out, I definitely had like bad social skills, like bad, like I didn't talk to people. Like it was bad. Like like I didn't understand like people like I didn't understand like relationships. I didn't understand like why everyone went to parties. Like I didn't get it. It was like a new experience for me until like I finally set up a lot more systems in my business and I didn't have to like basically work if I wasn't working. Like sorry, if I wasn't working, the business made no money. And when I switched that to kind of like, okay, the business kind of runs on its own, that was when I had a little more time to like think of other parts of my life. And that was when I realized I was really behind.
Yeah.
But I think if I didn't have that struggle in the beginning, I would have always had that like underlying like thing in my head thinking like, oh, I could have done so much more. But now I know like, no, like I actually did the most. So I'm kind of glad because it just gives me a much more confidence going forward because I'm like, I know what I'm capable of. And like, there's nothing between me and like what I want. Like I can do it as long as I put in the work. But I would say now going forward, it's like instead of me trying to do everything, we're just setting up the right people and systems to actually make it a sustainable thing. So like everyone's kind of working like 5 hours a day, but like everyone still has their own life, including myself. Because otherwise, if I'm just grinding for like a month straight and like I just want to like die after because I did nothing else, it's not sustainable. Because what happens like the next month? And it's like, okay, well, am I going to do that forever? No. Like I need to set up something where it's like everyone has specific roles in the business and that's what they do on a consistent daily basis.
Okay,
That's like
so
a newer thing that I've realized.
you said a ton of good things in there that I want to break apart. The first thing I want to break apart is this right here. You mentioned when looking at someone or talking with someone, you can tell in the first 5 seconds if they have it or not. What tells you that they have it?
I honestly, I don't know. It's not like a word they say or something. Like, okay, for example, Ryan, I saw an Instagram reel of him and I knew instantly, like I literally DM'd him. I said, I'm signing you on as like my camera guy instantly, because I knew off the video, like, I don't know how to describe it. There's just like something to it where it's like, I think it's more of like there's a passion behind what they're doing. Like you can feel that, it's like if people are just doing something for the money or the clout, or like you can tell, versus somebody that like they have like a deep connection to why they did it. Like I made Sire and the sneaker reselling because I went through all those hard times as a sneaker reseller and I learned from those experiences. And the reason I wanted to do it was because I wanted to like give back to everyone else and like to my younger self. That is the reason. The money just came with it. And like that's what allows it to grow. But if some people go into a business thinking like, oh yeah, like I'm going to do this because I think I can make a lot of money, somebody with that passion is always going to beat them because their customer base will relate more with that. I think it's like more of like an emotional thing rather than just like, it's not everything is 100% logic. There's more of like a deeper connection to it. Same business and not business. I even think with friendships, like too, I notice it a lot where it's like we even went skydiving. Like I called one of my friends, Zane, and I was like, yo, we're going skydiving, like as a joke. And he's like, all right, bet, I'm booking my flight. He came an hour later. Like literally, like who does that? Like those are like the type of people that I kind of like gravitate towards. Not even because it was scary or it's expensive to fly there. It's like they actually are like brave enough to like just be able to do something like that, So I think that's kind of the difference.
So on the basis of friendship, I think a lot of people that when they start taking themselves seriously, I think one of the first things they start looking at is their circle. Who am I associating my time with? Because it's so important. Everybody's thoughts and actions become your own. When you're looking to associate yourself with people, what are the most important things that come to mind? That's a non-negotiable. This person is going to be in my friend group. They don't have this, you're done.
I would say drive in anything. Like it doesn't have to be business. It doesn't have to. And that was honestly a flaw I used to have. If they didn't have their own business, I wouldn't be friends with them. Like that was stupid of me. Like so honestly, like think about like somebody that's like trying to become like, I don't know, an actor or like artist or something. Like I would not know anything about that. And it's completely not in my realm, but like you can tell that like they're going and they're trying to do something and really just like diving deep into it. Like how can they figure out a way around these problems? I would say problem solving and like caring. And there's a reason behind why they're doing something. Even if it's just like, I would say that like a drive, problem solving, curiosity, and like kind of like they want to adventure new things and try new things, I think is really important too. Cause like, I feel like people that kind of just get content with what they're doing on a day to day, I also don't really like connect with because I'm always trying to do new stuff. Cause if I've already done it, like I know what it's like. And I could always go back and do that thing, but I'd rather try something new because you never know how good something could be if you never try it. Let's say like those are the main things I could think of. Like,
okay. Like I think what comes to mind, me personally, some of my non-negotiables, I love those that you get: problem solving, drive, curiosity, huge things. When I'm thinking personally, people in my circle, number one, negativity. I mean, it's just a non-negotiable. Negativity, very negative people, it kind of just erodes you. Number two, loyalty. I need freaking loyal people in my circle. And I'm going to pay that back and be very loyal to you. And I think thirdly, just, it's actions, it's drive, it's purpose, but it's also you find people in your daily life that they may give you jabs, small jabs. Like you tell them good news or you're working on something. I got this the other day from one of my friends. You're no fun anymore. What? Like I feel at some point people have to respect what you're doing and support. And I think that goes hand in hand with loyalty. And I'm sure you've experienced it, but would you agree with some of those things too?
Yeah, that all three of those, like exactly. I agree. Well, I just think that like a lot of those traits go hand in hand. Like if they are loyal, then they would be like they would usually have drive, or there's like a reason why they do something. Like, like I think a lot of them go hand in hand. Like the same people that have certain qualities will have the others.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
so, but yeah, 100%. I agree.
What another thing you said in there is, I mean, you were grinding, not sustainable, but you got to a point where it's so not sustainable that you had to put systems in your business to allow it to operate when you're not working. That's something that I'm very interested in hearing more about, because it sounds like when I think of a guy like you, and we'll get into this, exiting for a large sum of money, doing $8 million revenue, like it's very impressive. But I associate with that like this kid is working nonstop all the time. It doesn't always sound like it. It sounds like you have pretty good work-life balance. What systems did you put in place to make that happen?
Well, it started off with like trying to trust people. Like that's the hardest thing, and finding the right people to put there. I always had the same struggles when it came to hiring. Like when I first hired with sneakers, like I would say step one with hiring is like getting those like easy tasks out of the way. So like for me, it was like shipping. Like anybody could do that. Like my little sister can pack a box. Like that doesn't know anything about anything. Like so that's like an easier hire because you can train them and it's like a no brainer. The harder hires are like with Jack, for example, like that was a lot harder. But the reason like I chose him to like do this role is because he is loyal and he's hardworking and I trust him a lot. So like I wouldn't just pick like a random person to do a certain role. Like it's like I honestly don't know. Like I don't have a ton of experience. I'm still figuring it out with the whole hiring thing.
Yeah.
But
Is Jack
yeah.
Is Jack a close friend before this?
We actually not really. Like we kind of just came out and filmed for my sneaker event that I did like a couple years ago, and I just remembered he had a camera. And when I first launched Sire, I was thinking about who has a camera. And I remember I was like walking. I just texted Jack like, "Yo, you want to do some crazy shit? Like travel with me every weekend?" And then we just went from there. And then yeah, and then it's kind of just grown since.
What about, so I think at a certain point, like, and I struggle with this all the time. I had a pretty low point last semester where I tied my mood all the time. I tied to performance on social media or how this is going, how this is going. And dude, I was freaking miserable. Like
Yeah.
every single day I'd wake up and it made me lose my love for content creation, made me lose my love for the podcast, what I'm trying to do. Like when you chase numbers, does that give you any fulfillment? And if it doesn't, what gives you fulfillment within your business?
Yeah, I used to have that when I had Amazon, when I was selling on Amazon. Anytime I got a notification, I'd be so happy. And whenever I did it, I'd be so mad. So I completely understand what you're saying. Honestly, a big change that I made is I turned off notifications for all of those apps.
Okay.
And I'll check whenever I think about it. Like I'll just look at like, same with like my download reports and stuff. Like I turned off all those notifications for the app. And whenever I'm like curious, I'll just go and check, which is usually like every few days. Like I've gotten used to it now where I just don't look at it. I would say like fulfillment in my business, what I really look for is like I have like a roadmap of what I want to accomplish with the company. And honestly, like just getting closer to that, like even if it's like, oh, like if we're trying to make a partnership with a company and we go from like the initial sales rep to like somebody that's higher up, like I get happy about that because I just get happy by progress towards like what I'm trying to create, not the money. Like if I had just the money, like I could retire, like I'd be fine. Like,
Yeah.
like at my age, like no one, like everyone's like has like $50 in their bank account,
Right.
So like for me at this point, it's just for like, I want to see my creation reach more people and be more impactful. That's like what I care about. And just
Absolutely.
see daily progress, getting closer to that, like that future that I want.
So when you say the future, are you saying the future state of a business or future state of yourself? For example, I have a sticky note hanging right above me right here. One of my best friends, he's actually my roommate. I would talk to him about this all the time. I'm like, I'm tying my mood to performance. I'm freaking miserable. And he said, every single day, what you should do. And I actually just texted Ryan this. You should focus and tie your mood on if you took steps in the day to become the best version of your future self. So I'm tying my mood always to me in the future, this image and this character I want to create. It sounds like a little bit what you're doing is you're tying it to an outcome in the future of a business. Is that correct? Or are you tying it more on your character and who you are as a person?
No, I would say, well, it used to be only my business. I didn't care about myself. Like I was overweight. Like I didn't care, not like that overweight, but like I felt like not my best compared to when I was like training every day for football. Like I didn't talk to people. Like my social skills were trash. Like I could only talk to people if it was about sneakers. Like I didn't talk to anybody else about anything. So like, but ever since I kind of moved here and like I'm kind of forced to like talk to more people because it's not like I don't have like an instant like friend group like school. So I think I'm more look at myself now as like I told Ryan like a Madden player card where it's like different stats like okay like my business is good, that's one stat. One is like how like in shape I am from going to the gym. One's like new talents that I learned or like new skills, new friendships. Like I look at myself as all of those as a well balanced person because now for me within my business, like I feel like it's more important for me to be a good like role model and leader for everyone else to kind of look up to and be like, I'm glad to work for this person. I'm glad to work with them. And like, I want to do something like what they're doing, you know? So like, I feel like me, if I was just like, just grinding all day and had no life, like a lot of people don't aspire to be that, you know, they want to like be an overall good person. So like, yes, I agree. Maybe with the other things I was saying, because we were talking a lot about business, it might have came off as that way, but definitely not. But that's like more of a recent thing, like probably within the past 6 months that I've kind of realized that it's more important. That's why I've traveled a lot more because it also helps your business. Like if you go to the gym, you're making a lot of new friends and like you're closer with your family and like you traveling to more places, like you're going to be a happier person, which means you're going to perform better in your business. And like people are going to want to be around you and work with you and partner with you. And you have a lot more stories to tell, you know? So like, I do think it helps in all areas of your life if you're not just like so into your business. Like,
Great point. So what do you think about this statement? Does money equate to happiness?
No,
It doesn't.
no.
Explain that. Not even
Well,
a
I think
little bit. You don't think a little bit. Even that
well,
first opinion.
I think money buys freedom in a way, but like honestly, it's like what's your number that you can live on? Like I can live on nothing if I want. Like honestly, like I don't care about getting a nicer apartment, like or anything like that. Like as long as I can like not think about money, like I'm happy. But it's just like I think a lot of people as they make more, they're like, oh, let me spend way more, like you know, matching what they make. That's when the money and the happiness gets tied together. Same with like what you're saying with your business growth. If you're attaching it just to what you're making versus like the daily progress, like you're going to get sidetracked and your business will eventually start declining because a day that you made less, which just happens because maybe someone got sick or like maybe someone's tired or something, like with those normal human things, like you're going to become not motivated because of those things you can't really control. So yeah, I would say like for me, my happiness is like seeing progress and like honestly just like meeting new friends, and, like doing fun things. And like sometimes that comes from your business. Like a lot of my best memories is like when like all of me and my friends were going to like a sneaker event and we're just like have all these problems. We ended up solving it and then we had a good day and we made a lot of money and then like we went out, got food. Like that's like a great day. So sometimes it's within your business. Sometimes it's like when I was with my friend and his family in Mykonos, Greece, and we were just exploring a new place and it was sick. You know, so like
yeah.
it just comes in all different forms.
What about you mentioned leadership? I love leadership and something I'm trying to do every single day. I do a ton of self-reflection. I'm reading the book right now. If you've never read the book Laws of Human Nature, you got to read that book. It'll pick you apart and spit you out and you will say, holy shit, I have a lot of things in my life that I need to work on. But on the topic of leadership, and you're leading this organization and trying to be a role model for people, what are the most important traits that you're trying to put out and show to people who are working for you that get them to say, I'm going to go to freaking war with this guy?
I would say instead of like trying to preach to people, just more lead by example and kind of be able to be on their level with things. Don't try and act like you're like way better than them. Like do the same hard work that they're doing, like be on their same level, but lead by example of what you would want them to do. And I always think about like, what would my future kids like look at me as? Like, I literally think about that. I'm like, okay, like what kind of father figure do I want to be? Like what legacy do I want to have for my family? Cause that's stuff that I care about. Yeah. And I just think that like, that's kind of what I think as like a leader. I just think like, what would I want somebody else to be doing in my shoes when I like, for example, like if like Jack, right? Like I want him to eventually take my role and kind of run Sire in a way. So then I can work on other things. Like if I'm just like being lazy, what kind of like, you know, I don't know the word for it. What kind of, expectation or like role model is that? Like, that's what they'll just think of. Oh, he's this what he's doing. Okay, I'll do that. You know, like I don't believe in that. I think you should lead by example and don't take any shortcuts because you can tell if you take shortcuts.
Absolutely. Well said. I respect that a lot. Let's move a little bit more into the business. So me and Ethan chatted on the phone about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and I got a little bit of his backstory. And this is a crazy thing, and you got to respect this hustle. But at the age of 14, 13, you're trying to sell shoes, and then you start moving into something, and you need to gain more traction. You need to market. Social media, when we were younger kids, I mean, it's not as prevalent as it is right now. It's not like it's so simple. You just post and boom, you can get in front of 1 million people. How did you go about marketing and gaining business at such a young age?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing I learned with marketing was my sneaker event, but I'll talk about with my sneaker wholesale first. So like I already explained, I basically did the used shoes and stuff, which was easier because I was just leveraging platforms like eBay and Go, which already had all the customers. So I wasn't really learning anything. The big change that I learned with networking, I would say more than marketing, was when I started wholesaling. So I was actually using a bunch of sneaker bots and things like that to buy a bunch of shoes off drops and then ship them to New Jersey. Actually, here, my friend had a warehouse here and he would manage it. But we were collectively buying thousands of Yeezys every single drop and Jordans every single time. So we had, and like I was saying, a lot of it was like on credit. A lot of it was, market drops within a matter of days. So like you have to be on top of it. I would say like the biggest thing that like helped me with networking was organizing all of the people that I've ever known. So if I met somebody and they were anything related to the sneaker space, I would log them in a contact book and I would like put like seller NJ, buyer like NY or like whatever, or like somebody that owns an event in MI. Like I had all those contacts. So that way, whenever I got a list of shoes, I can just send it to all the contacts and like be on top of it and like follow up like, oh, like you need anything right now for your store or your wholesale business. Like I was always on top of that with networking and just never letting any of those like connections go to waste. That was like a massive thing that I learned with like connections. This was when I was like 15, 16. That was like a large thing that to this day has helped me so much. Like when I launched Sire for the first time, all of those contacts, if it was seller, buyer, whatever, I combined all those people into a group chat and I texted them. I said, hey, I just came out with the software for the sneaker space. It's unlike anything else you've ever seen. Please, if I've ever worked with you, if you don't mind reposting my recent Instagram reel. And I had probably, I think like over 100 reposts in that same day. And a lot of these people I haven't talked to in years, but it's just like, they remember seeing me when I was like a little kid, like trying to wholesale them to like 5 pairs, now like creating my own app. So like, I would say definitely keeping in contact with those people is important. I learned a lot about networking at a young age. And then kind of shifting over to the marketing social media side. I didn't use any marketing for my sneaker business because I wasn't direct to consumer. It was all just like who you know and like texting them directly. Outreaching through Instagram DM was a massive thing for sneakers. But within the event space, I learned a lot more about building a brand and a real like business as compared to like reselling. And I used a lot of social media. So yeah, the first event, I didn't even know how to use ads. I think I spent $50 and I had no idea what I was doing. I literally, for my first videos, it was actually very difficult because it was really hard. You couldn't copy off other events because we had no events yet. And a lot of these other events, they would just use clips from their past events. And so I had nothing. So I had to just pretty much like sell a dream here and be like, all right, well, I've never done an event and like I don't know what I'm doing, but promise buy my vendor spots. So there was a lot of videos of me just literally in my basement, and I set up like a little banner behind me with my shoes. I was like, all right, this is why our event's better. And I added a bunch of new value propositions that no one's seen before within sneakers. So like, and I used my own experience as a bulk buyer, vendor, because I was in the shoes of all the people that were at those events. So like something I did was for the vendors in the morning, people usually pull up in like a U-Haul truck or a van or some sort, and they would have to basically unload their whole truck and then walk it into the vendor table, like holding it by their hands. And people are moving in like 200 shoes. It takes like 30 minutes and so much work, and it's annoying. So what I did is I hired a bunch of kids from my school and I created sneaker ballet. So we had a bunch of dollies, and we would actually come out to their car. We would unload all of it, and we had all the supplies. We brought it to their vendor table for completely free. So like my sell to vendors was like, okay guys, I know it's super annoying when you pay $200 for a vendor table and have to bring it all in, and you sell nothing, you bring it all back out. It's all this work, you're tired, you actually made no sales. So I can't promise you sales because I've never done an event, but what I can promise is that you're not going to have a broken back by the end of the event. And that was kind of what I did. I tried to figure out other things to kind of incentivize people when I first launched it. So that was one thing. And another big thing that I did is I went to every local sneaker store, any sort of influencer within the sneaker space in my local town, which was like the Metro Detroit area. I would literally pull up to a sneaker store not knowing who they are, and they've never met me. And I would come with a little banner. And I was like, hey, we're doing an event. It was on April 30th, 2022, I think. I was like, we're doing an event. If you're down to make a video, like we'll collab it on our Instagram and your Instagram, and we'll give you free access to the event so you can come and buy bulk for shoes. And these people usually have, somewhere between 5,000 and 50,000 followers, but they're all like local people that would come to my event. And they would usually always be down because I told them like, oh, well, we will store all your stuff. We'll bring it to your car at the end of the day. We have a bulk buying competition. Whatever store buys the most, we're going to give them a $300 pair of shoes for free. And so they're all like super like, yeah, this is awesome. And so they'd be down to do the video. We posted it. And that was what brought a lot of traction, was just literally just showing up to the stores, just asking. And I didn't even have a car. Like my dad was driving me around. Like you drive like 45 minutes to these stores hoping that they would accept it. But yeah, that was like the biggest thing with marketing. I would say just kind of, there was no strategy either. That's why when I look back, I'm like, I don't know how I pulled this off. There's no strategy. But yeah, we sold out all of our vendor spots, which were $120. I think we had 70 slots there at the first event. And then we sold around 500 tickets at $20 each.
So
and it was
when you say you're going to vendor, I mean, that's door-to-door sales, right? You're just knocking on a door and speaking to
someone. These were stores. So these are people that would buy from our vendors. Okay. Like another thing, was I would go to other trade shows that were like competing with me, and I would literally go up to every vendor table. I had a mini flyer, and I would this was another strategy I did. Since I was also selling shoes at the time, I would make a deal with them. And let's say it's like $500 for the deal, and it's like 10 pairs of shoes or something. I'd be like, all right, what I'll do is I'll give you 400 and a free vendor table. So I literally force them. And if they're like, nah, I'm good, I'll be like, all right, I'm walking away then. And they would always fold. That was how I sold out the vendor tables. I probably picked up out of like the total vendor tables, I probably got 25 that way, just by literally forcing my way in through another business. That was actually a skill I learned that works very well for me now. Cause like I'll like negotiate in like within the network, right? Like I was saying with the Amazon thing, it's like, if somebody's using my inventory system, it's a simple like plugin to use the shipment, or like vice versa, So like kind of like giving them something that I know they want, but like being like, all right, well, you're going to have to risk and try something that I want to get off the ground. Gotcha. That was like the very important thing that now looking back, I see kind of where I learned that. It's probably from that.
And then you also mentioned like, it's kind of just trial and error. I found I post stuff on social media. It's 100% trial and error. Like at the start, there's zero strategy. You are just spitting out things left and right, hoping that the market likes something, and then you're going to pivot and start making similar content like that. I talk to a lot of content, like big guys, 200,000 followers, 100,000 followers, 500,000. They say the same thing. And that is, I never know what I'm doing. You just
Yeah.
never know what you're doing. Would you say that's a similar thing with your experience in business?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because if you try and copy somebody else and use their strategy, it never works because they're not doing the same thing as you, and you're always one step behind. Like the best thing is to just use your own experience, look into your own business and life, and think about like what you find annoying in a business or like what you think could be improved from your own opinion, and then go from there. Be like, oh, well, I watch this guy's videos and I think they suck because of this. I'm just going to make something that I would watch more, that I would enjoy. And then, because a lot of people, like whether they know it or not, like they probably would agree, so because people are still people, like like we all have like similar lives in some ways, I think
I completely agree. It's a frustrating thing though. You're like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. You're sitting on your bed. You're just like, what the fuck am I doing? But I think you just got to keep chugging along, and you're gonna figure it out at some point. Anyway, going into the next thing. So you mentioned to me that you are looking to exit your business, and that's coming up, and you're in conversations with a very big company that it could fork over a decent amount of money. I'm trying to understand when you're in an exit process and you're talking with someone, what are the most important skills to have?
know what they need, know what you have, and like have massive balls.
Explain that a little more.
Just like don't be intimidated by them. Like just know what you have. That's something they need. Like for me, it's like I know I have something that they need and no one else has. And if they don't want it, their competitor will. Okay. And if none of them want it, okay, I'll just keep running my business until they finally start coming to me. Like, that's how I think.
It's more just like, I don't care. You either take it right now, otherwise I'm totally good. So it's no neediness on your part.
Right. Because like for me, if I want to exit, it's going to be like for a price that like I feel like it's over market. Like I'm not going to settle for anything short. Because if they want a low ball or they're like, oh, like they try and play games, I'm like, okay, then I'll keep it. Because I know that what I have is valuable and I'm just not going to sell myself short. And I'm good. And also another thing is to like have good options. Like don't just reach out to one company.
Yeah.
Reach out to all their competitors as well and take your time. Don't just jump on the first thing you see. And because that company I mentioned with you, like I'm going to go speak with all of their competitors before I even like entertain their offer, because like you never know, like somebody could be dying to get it more, like you don't know unless you ask. Same with everything in like life. You got to have multiple options, and you don't really know the market. Like for me, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never sold a company. I have no clue. These people are like 60 years old. I've never even like worked a corporate job. Like I don't know anything about how their system works. So I'm more just treating it as like buying and selling a shoe. Like, okay, here's my shoe. Here's market price. I don't really know market price. I know based off like kind of my revenue and how much my data is worth and things like that. But you don't really understand the market until you go try and sell it and see what people are offering back. Those payment ready offers, those are the ones that really matter. So that's kind of just the process that I'm looking into. And honestly, like I'm not like dying to sell. I just want to learn about the process and see like what it's worth. How can I increase the value? Like what are the steps like to actually sell a company? Because that's the big money in life, like buying and selling businesses. And I feel like I'm very good at getting things off the ground. And if I could just keep doing that, and like instead of like looking at how much I make like cash flowing every month, just looking like, okay, if I found a business on whatever, February 4th, 2025, what could I sell it at February 4th, 2026? If that's like tens of millions of dollars, why don't I just do that instead of waiting 10 years to make that within that company? Because usually with software, you get like a 10x multiple, whatever you make per year in revenue. So like, why would I not just do that every year? If I know how to do that,
100%. So let's just, and you kind of just answered this, but let's just say you sell it and you are sitting very pretty, like 19, 20 years old. You have, you can retire today. You don't need to work another day in your life. Don't you feel like some part of you may feel a little bit lost and hopeless? Like it's like you had this huge goal, you sold, you have all this money. Do you think the drive at all dissipates? or what's your take on that? You don't. Okay.
I already know what I want to do next. So it's like,
You do.
it's just a stepping stone. And honestly, for me, like the next thing I want to do, which can't really talk too much about it because it's not a thing yet, but I need the credibility at my age and because like for most people, what I've done is really massive, but in the investor world within that, like what I did is nothing. Like they don't care. Like I'm such a small fish in the world of like big business. So it's like, if I have the track record of like, okay, I founded in 2023, I sold in 2025 for X amount from like whatever I invested in versus what I sold it for, that return, I use that as a track record. The next company, I want to go raise money. I have like a whole portfolio. So this is what I founded at, bootstrap myself, no investors. This is what we sold for in this amount of years. This is how we did it. This is the team that I did, that I built, and the systems that I built. And we think that we have a really good opportunity in this new market. I want money to raise for the next company. That's what I want to do, because the next thing I'm going to do is a massive market, and I need like tens of millions of dollars to get into that market. And I can't really do that. I could probably do it with just pitching to them, but I feel like if I already have a track record and have a fully sold company from like start to finish, I personally will feel more comfortable taking on their investment, and I'll feel comfortable with myself because I've like, it's just a confidence thing too. Like if you sold your company for like tons of money, you like the world knows now, like you're legit. Like it's the same thing that when I was trying to not to make people understand why I wasn't going to college. It's the same thing. But I feel like it's like, it sounds bad, but it's still a factor in your brain. You're still like, I know I'm doing well and I know that what I'm doing is important, but like the average person doesn't really get it. And an investor that's not in the sneaker space, they're like, okay, well, you're just another software company that does this amount of revenue. We don't care about any unique thing that you've brought to the market. They don't understand it because they're not a customer. So that's how I feel. Like I just want to sell it. It's just another stepping stone to my next project. It's not like the end all be all of my business and I'm done. I'm tired. Like no, because I do it for fun.
So you're thinking very long term, and it's essentially it sounds like you're like building up a resume for the next venture.
Exactly. This is just a test dummy. What I'm doing now, at least the way I think about it.
How much time do you spend on planning? Like, is there a certain time in a year where you sit down and you're just like, I am strategizing, putting together a business plan? Or does that stuff kind of come, you don't do that?
No, I literally get random ideas throughout the day and I just add them to my list. Like I cannot do like deep work or whatever. Like I can't do it. I can't stand it. Like my brain I lose my mind. I think because I did it for so long, for so many years that like I have like trauma towards that. like I literally will just get random ideas. Like I'll even be just talking on the phone with people. I'm like, and I'm just trying to like, if they have a problem or something, they're explaining to me, they're like, what should I do? And I like come up with some insane response. I'm like, shit, I should take my own advice here. Let me write that down. and then I'll like go at it to like my list of like, okay, well, I think in order for me to launch this new update, I should add this before instead of like a whole, like I think I notice a lot of that from just conversations that I have with people. Right. And then I just kind of will log it. Or if I randomly, like sometimes I'll randomly notice things like when I'm like traveling or like driving, I'm like, like random things just pop into my head. And then I just write it down and I just make sure that if it's on that list, I'll never lose track of it. So it'll eventually be executed on. So definitely do not sit down and like plan because I just can't do it. Like,
do you train that part in your brain? For example, like that's your subconscious mind working. It's like when you're so dialed in and focused on something, and then you do something like you go for a walk or you're on a plane ride or you're driving, something non-taxing. That's when your subconscious really goes to work and it starts feeding you all these ideas. And I've learned this from reading a couple books, and I've trained that part of my mind to do that. Did you stumble across that by accident, or is this something that you've been training for and trying to call up these ideas?
Definitely not training. I think I just thought I was crazy for so long, like in high school. Then I finally was like, maybe I'm not. I like had problems like sleeping and like I literally would always be thinking. I thought I was crazy. Like literally, I thought it was crazy.
That's a dream state right there. That is a very good problem to have.
Yeah, but no, honestly, I've noticed a lot with like me working less. I
Yeah,
think our company does better because
really.
the less I'm attached to it, the less it's reliant on my time, my mood, if I feel like doing it or not. Like, and it's more of like, let's set it up so everyone is somewhat like replaceable and drag and drop. I was literally talking with Jack about this today. Like, we need to hire somebody where I can give them like all of my brain, like literally like all these notes that I have, like the little things when I'm driving and I think of it, or like I'm on a plane, like you said, or like I'm talking to somebody, I have all these ideas on a list. And they're great ideas. Like if we actually implement them, like our business and like all of our employees, everyone will have a better life. Like our customers will be happier. We have way less stupid tasks that we have to do. We literally just need somebody to like translate those massive amounts of like ideas that I have to like executable tasks for every person to do based on like and present it to them in a way that is like it makes sense. So like certain employees like within Sire like work a lot better with just like go go go, like give me one task, I'll knock it out. And some people are more like, oh, like let's think about this a little more, you know, like so kind of wording it and positioning those tasks to people in the way that their personality and their mind works is a new thing that I've thought of.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I'm not like I used to be like go go go, let me do all these tasks, crank them. Now it's like I can't stand that. Like I'd rather just sit down and like think of something and let other people that are more like in that state of mind to just execute on them. Like for me, at least,
Very.
it's good. Yeah. Over time, I've learned that, but yeah.
I think that's a very, very mature response. And you saying that right now shows me that you are there and well on your way to being a good leader. Because I think it's very difficult for a lot of people that come up with successful things. Like they always want to be the star of the show and everything needs to run through them. And to have that mindset where you say, okay, well, I want to translate all this knowledge in my head to everybody else, build up my team so they're so capable that it's going to improve the business, it's going to improve their confidence, improve their life. That's just a very mature thing to say at such a young age. So, dude, I have mad respect for that. Like a lot of respect
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you.
We are closing in at the end of this podcast. My last question, Ethan, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to share?
I don't know. You can put me on the spot like that.
You're Mr. Ideas. This should be no
like
problem.
I don't know. Like okay, give me like a topic or something, like a
Oh,
general
that's
thing.
fine. I don't know, like the best piece of advice you've ever heard, stuff like that. Message for young, for example, a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they're young kids. They're in college, they're in high school. They're like us, very ambitious, driven, big into personal development. They have these big goals that they're striving for. I think the best way to approach this what advice would you give to the 16-year-old version of yourself, the 13-year-old version, that young kid? That would be my best way to describe this.
Okay, I'd say first of all, put yourself around other people crazy like you, so you can understand that there are other people in that same struggle. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Another thing, don't get distracted by a million business models. That's so easy to get distracted by. Getting like shiny object syndrome. Like literally seeing a new business model, be like, oh, I want to try that, and then you lose track of what you're already doing. So I would say like remember why you started whatever you're doing now, whether it's like a gym grind or a business or like even if you're just trying to study to get into a good college, like all of those things. Like remember why you wanted to do that, the initial reason, and just kind of stay on that track because the longer you work on one specific thing, you'll be so much ahead of other people because not everyone has that discipline to like stick on that one part of your life that you really want. And yeah, I would say try not to get attached to like we were talking about like money or like clout or like external motivators, like having all these things like for other people to like you. Say
Yeah.
just know like I was saying, like know why you started and just focus on the progress to getting to that end goal and just kind of trying to stay on that track. It's very difficult because a lot of people will tell you other things and it's it just depends on your circle like we were talking about. If you're around other people that are focused on progress instead of external motivators, like you're going to also think that way. So say, yeah, probably that. Just make sure you stay on track. Don't get distracted and just keep going.
Well said. I could not freaking agree more. That's advice for me too. If you made it this far, thank you guys so much. One thing Ethan brought up at the end there, it's the circle. It's surround yourself with like-minded individuals. We made a podcast on this. It's called You Need a Mastermind. It is literally the sole principle of what he just said in different words. Give that a listen. Of course, we can't grow without your support. Share this with a friend. Share this with an entrepreneur, a business owner, someone that's into sneakers. Get this man some recognition. He's freaking crushing it. Thank you guys always. We will be a top 100 Spotify podcast someday, and I'm going to keep saying it. Your support means the world. Appreciate it, guys. Catch you next time.